This is, I guess, our third, fourth, maybe even our fifth OpGov call. OpGov media and marketing. So um, let's just kind of kick this off and kind of move the needle, and let's start getting some inertia on certain things. First of all, on the Slack, there's been a lot of conversation. It's really been focused on weighted democracy, one person, one vote, or as mechanisms to elect a leadership board and to upvote ideas. Um, I think it's great and fascinating that we are starting to kind of re-engage ideas. What I would like for us to do, if that isn't you interested in, then I think we should all come together and put a field study around it, determine how we're going to validate and test and prove, very much like we did the first time around, that one model is better versus another. If that is indeed what we want to focus on right now, versus putting together an agenda on a variety of things that need to get taken care of. Angela and I were talking a little bit about, should we be profit or nonprofit? Do we have a mission statement we want to do? There's the onboarding piece that Allison is going to be driving, but how do we impact that as it relates to retention? Angela has talked a little bit about a learning community. How do we fold that into it? There is this width of things that we can be addressing in parallel. And to kind of reiterate, my hope at our first Google Hangout was that we would start to kind of string that out a little bit, find DRIs that wanted to hold on to their idea or advance one and would work that channel, so we could have 4, 5, or 6 narratives, if not going on simultaneously, staggered. So when it came time to start running experiments, I think Ryan, if we can kind of suss him out, has some interest in some of the onboarding. I think it's collaboration and cooperation in the crowd. How we can not just operationalize some of these things, but then bolt on research agendas to them. I think with Rajan finishing up some of his meta work, a lot of these things would have been done by him and Bernstein. I think it's kind of a natural evolution for us to start assuming some of the dualities there. And we have like 3 or 4 months to put together some research agendas for a conference, as opposed to 3 or 4 weeks. So this is an opportunity where we could potentially cobble together a lot of data in a very interesting way. I mean, we're kind of in the research phase. We're now through launch, and then how they stabilize. This could be a very interesting, almost a quadratic approach. You can see how ideas evolve and emerge through various phases of our growth, kind of critical ones. And then now there's also the marketing and the media stuff that we've got a Twitter handle. We don't have Facebook. We don't have a blog. How we can use those tools to spread the word, to engage critical ideas, to recruit, to retain, spread the word, influence. Again, that's one of the tenets for the CSCW conference. So again, it's another thing that we need to do, but could also be part of or an individual paper on how to leverage social media in the crowd. So I just wanted to re-emphasize that there are a lot of dual agendas that can be done simultaneously by this group if we operationalize ideas, but then also put them into a research-like framework. Ed, any comments on that? Anyone have things they want to prioritize? Should we start cobbling together a Google Doc? Should I send out a Google Doc? What do you guys want to do?
I think before we do anything, we need to ultimately define what our vision is, who our target customer is or should be, and come to some consensus, and then identify our minimum viable product and how we can kind of fund this, sustaining demo, whether it's Goodwill, like we have now, and get people to sign up to Goodwill, or whether it is, doing some competitor analysis, identifying, what fees we need to charge to be able to sustain the platform. I think we need to do some really, we need to do a little bit of business planning or strategic planning to start with. I think that would be a good place to start. I think we can't really start into Instagram or Facebook or Twitter without actually knowing what our vision is, who our target customer is, what our minimum viable product is, kind of what part, what element we're better than the others at, that sort of thing. Anyone else?
I think, yeah, having the direction is really an interesting idea. I'm definitely excited to get into the research parts, but yeah, understanding it's better for the platform to have a direction. So I think, can we have those like in a Google Doc right now, and just like that way we can look at them while we're talking here?
Sure.
Just those 3 points you put out. Like we don't need too much.
Yeah, my internet is suspect right now, so I don't know if I could. I'm actually looking for a person to do this old school and write it down.
Okay.
Okay, I can start a Google Doc if you fancy.
Let's use that as a starting point. And even Angela's thrown out some ideas on mission statements. There's an old school approach that is more of a statement. Angela and I were talking the other day how she was taking a couple classes and has seen that mission statements are more statements, literally. I think you said like 3 words, Angela.
Yeah, kind of 3 words that sum up the essence of your offering to the world. So it could be 3 words like open, honest crowdsourcing, or fair, I don't know, fair quality work.
Yeah, like the simpler it is, the better. I mean, everyone remembers Google's is "Don't be evil," and it's right away to the point of it. And I think if we just do something simple like we were suggesting there, that'd be great.
Yeah. So let's.
Yeah, I agree on the mission type, but I thought it's really important to make a conversation in the Facebook's blogs. Especially, it's important that even though we haven't got a specific mission vision, we start to talk about things. Because ultimately those will come up, and then we might be too late to talk about it. So it's better to have a conversation going in the marketplace.
I agree. I suppose ultimately that we'd need to... Go ahead.
Is that really the way it's done nowadays? Is there really that critical engagement out there?
I think there's the conversation, but you need to identify who you're talking to. Who is our target customer? Who is, like, what is our minimum viable, what are we offering them that's different from anything else? So I suppose identifying
those we have identified, haven't we? Our target market is completely like, I mean, we don't have specifically a beach market, like, first target customers who are we targeting, but the target customers are the customers that we have, have been having problems with the other marketplaces, like crowdsourcing marketplaces. And what we have different from the others is the significant in the platform. The Boomerang reputation is the what we have as a what do you call a significant different from the others. Like I don't know. That's the difference from.
So do our differentiators be technical?
It's a point of difference.
Cultural.
And also, I mean, there's no other platform which serves from the crowd as such we do. Like we don't have the business-oriented mind yet, but still having that eco-friendly mind to have a learning culture and empowering everyone, requesters, workers, researchers. So it's different, just like it's not totally on profit making, but serving the marketplace. So a few of the aspects are those. Any other thoughts?
mission statement.
I've just added the document, but actually I'm not sure I made it shareable yet. Let me know if you can't.
So I've been zapping in and out, but the three things then we look at a mission statement, either the new school 3 sentences or a more elaborate paragraph style statement. We do
Oh, you're fading out.
comparative, which is also we can look at the players and then the market, because we need to look at both. We need to look at workers and requesters, and then I guess foraging plans, profit and nonprofit. Those are kind of the 3 high-level things that get shaped into this conversation right now.
Yeah, I think that's for the 3 points I remember.
Yeah. Okay. So, should we then start, divvying up some of these responsibilities? Collectively, I think we start going out to the cohort and getting their soliciting their ideas and their sentiments on the market, on the mission statement. But then within this group, we really need to do some dedicated market research. And start looking at project plan, profit, nonprofit, and then the competitive analysis. Is that something within this group we can start formulating, start taking on?
So for like competitive analysis, do we have any identified competitors besides the typical ones we always mention, like Mechanical Turk, Odesk, Crowdflower?
Well, I think part of it's going to be shaped by. I mean, there are there are a lot of very niche crowds that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's almost a circuitous argument for us. Like, okay, how narrow? It could shape like, okay, if we're going to go down that route, and get real small, real niche, it could help us decide what niche is either most competitive, least competitive, the best margin. Kind of shape that particular argument as a launching pad for becoming something bigger. We could identify to be an underserved market. The focus, from what I mostly see, mostly here in the States, both workers and requesters are very much clustered here. Does that mean that there's opportunity overseas? So it's just like we just have to just kind of start getting ourselves into it and start identifying where the players are, and see where that takes us. We can start with the big ones, but crowdsourcing.com has a good list of crowds that are out there, or maybe crowdsource.org, I don't remember which. But there are a couple clearinghouses that have lists of all the crowd-supported organizations out there. And we can start vetting those lists and just start getting the comparables, the financials, and the like on those. And then that could start shaping some decisions there. And then, the profit, non-profit, H1C, the whole, the whole gambit of our organizational structure. That's an in-depth conversation unto itself. And part of that I think is informed by the other two, but I think we all know probably enough about all of and to really go in depth and say, okay, if we're going to be for profit, what does that mean? Pros and cons, consequences, long-term growth. If we're going to be nonprofit, here are the pros and the cons, growth, global, national, and really just maybe just go deep into what all those structures mean, what sort of impact they have, and really just have an informative conversation around some of those pieces. Because I know people means different things in different parts of the world, at least from a tax liability perspective, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, Angela.
Can I suggest as oh, is my mic on? Yeah, as a way to kind of keep track of our ideas and to pull them together, that I posted a link in the marketing channel. I've made a well, there's a document called there's a concept called the business model canvas, and this is a kind of a snapshot of the business or the project, whatever, and it helps to bring together all of these ideas into one document. And I posted the link on there. There's a free website called Canvanizer. Business model canvas in the past has always been something you've got to pay for to use their template, but now Canvanizer's offered it for free, so that's nice. But basically, it identifies key partners. So if we want, I mean, it's worth generating these ideas to get us to think clearly about what different organizations, competitors, what key activities there are, various things. Anyway, so the business model canvas outlines key partners, key activities, key resources, the value proposition, customer relationships, channels that we use, customer segments, so if we start small and then work bigger, then grow from there. The cost structure, so is it all just goodwill? We all work and it's goodwill all around, or how much is it going to cost, and how much goodwill? Anyway, cost structure we can focus on. And then revenue streams. Do we need to, identifying revenue streams? Do we need to carry on getting more grants, or are we going to find ways of making this sustainable on its own? And also, there's a brainstorming space on the document. So, and anyone can edit it. I've just popped it in there. So, just as a good place to keep our ideas together. I don't know. What do you think? Has anyone got it open?
Yeah, I got it open. I'm taking a look at it.
Okay.
I think it's a nice way to organize brainstorming, so I'm into that.
Cool. All right. Is it? Do we all log into the same one, Angela? Again, I'm bandwidth compromised, so this is pretty much all.
It's the same one. It's one that I've made for demo, so it has just demo at the top. I haven't filled in any of the bits yet.
But and as individuals fill it in, are they tagged, or should they put it next to it?
Maybe put your John Henry next to it, or next to it, and people know your ideas. Actually, you could choose a different color. As you insert your comments, you can choose different colors. So you could. Oh, except it looks like there's only 6 colors, so forget it. Yeah, just put your name in the notes section. Click on the title, and then there's notes, and it's nice and easy. And you've got a snapshot of kind of what we're doing, on one page. I've got some other documents that I did some new venture. I did various business courses, but there's some nice documents that they have that pull all the ideas together in one page. So I can try and.
Looks like you have to open up the document. It's edit only. At least that's.
Oh, the Canvanizer one? Sorry.
And Mohammed, to your that this document that Angela is throwing out to us is going to be it's going to allow us to start capturing competitors to do some analysis. So if you have a list, or if you know some websites that have a list of our competitors, or you have some documentation on it, send them on over. Jay Silver, if you can do the same thing, it looks like you're, I don't know if you're listening or you're just chiming in.
He must be there.
Yeah, he's our boy here. So let's do that then. Let's kind of focus on the operational side then. Let's look at, we'll do missions, comparative analysis, and then this planning.
Sorry, so the document. Quick question: the document that people can't edit, is that the Google Doc or the Canvanizer?
Just a Delrucci, which one are you referring to?
It's the Google Doc.
Oh, sorry. How do I make it editable?
You go to share. On top of that, you get a share on.
Oh, yes, of course. It's just there. Sorry. Can't edit. Sorry about that, guys. Now you can edit.
All right, thanks.
So one tenet then of our operational emphasis will be then on, which I think is a good starting point, mission statement, comparative analysis, future planning. We'll just call it profit and nonprofit. And then I think the other tenant is this onboarding initiative, because it could be, I think it's a binary relationship. It's not just onboarding, it's retention. And I think we've had some retention issues. So I think this is possibly a good opportunity to start opening up that dialogue to how do we onboard folks, and then how do we retain them. I think it has a lot of, this is, Brian, this is probably a little bit more your area of expertise. Have you connected with Allison at all on any of the onboarding things and the like, and you know, this the general theme of that discussion?
Not yet. I haven't talked to him. I'm getting collecting all my recent lit reviews that I've made over the past few years and getting anything I can find on that'd be helpful for that literature. So it's about all I've got so far with that.
Okay. Is that something that you and Al, you have the bandwidth to drive?
Yeah, I could drive that. We'll see how it goes. My week is kind of crazy, but yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Well, I think it's, you know, this is an opportunity, I think, maybe where we can put into play, like, Al's very interested in the operational side of things. You're in the research. This could be a good model for ideas moving forward on how we kind of ramp up things. Because as we have ideas, we should probably be researching it, or we should probably do some field studies around it. Some opportunities for us to collect a lot of data. You know, maybe not necessarily validate on a hypothesis, but as we're doing it, that's the time for us to collect some of the raw numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've already been thinking of some ideas, just talking about what you brought up earlier in this meeting of the different models of open governance and how we're actually going to be testing that. So it's a pretty open-ended question, but yeah, I've got some ideas in my mind.
Awesome. So if we can start turning up that part, because there's a lot of field studies done on, you know, on governance models in open governance, but they're mostly open allocation platforms, as so much to the browser platforms. And I'll send you on over the link. James found this cache of lit reviews, about 13 to 15 field studies that were done on different organizations around the world. There's some really awesome stuff there, and hopefully that'll maybe jumpstart or open up our thinkings on how we can, not just how we can evaluate, but what we should be evaluating. So I'll share that stuff with you.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Okay, so to streamline, operationally, we've got two big things going. Should we add anything else to this that is of critical nature? Yeah, I think we've got, I think the mission piece and all of its corresponding parts, onboarding and retention and all its associated parts, I think that's a big chunk there. I think that will bring a lot of joy to the process. And I think what we can start doing then is go out to the masses with this, and I think we can start recruiting some folks to just filling in some of the work and start helping out with this. I think this is going to attract a lot of bees. This is some good honey. So then on the governance side, you know, we've been talking, the conversation has been about weighted democracy as an upvoting tool and a voting tool versus one person, one vote. These are ideas that were field tested 3-4 months ago. And they've been read by some new members, Pusham, but Mohammed also has been advocating a potential review. What do we think, guys? Should that be, you know, maybe the cornerstone of what the governance side of OpGov should be doing, is looking at models of representation and engagement as kind of a centralized theme to help start focusing and galvanizing the effort? Sure, we're really talking about voting, but really, are we looking at engagement / participation?
Sorry, I'm not sure what you mean.
We buttoned down the operations side of things with a couple ideas that we'll start working through. So now that's the ops side. We're now looking at the gov side of things. And there have been, through Slack, 2 ideas that are starting to kind of dominate the conversation, and that was using either one person, one vote, or weighted democracy as both voting and upvoting for the leadership board. So my question is, should we be reinvigorating or that we've already field tested, okay, which would be these 2 ideas, or should we okay, is that really what we want to do, or should we be looking at what those concepts represent, which is participation and engagement? And I use participation and engagement because those are some of the critical conduits for legitimacy. And instead of the trust idea that we were talking about with our reputation system, within the op and the governance side of things, the buzzword is legitimacy. And the mechanisms, the feedbacks, the tools or the pathways between various strata, leaders and followers, is the ability to open up avenues for participation and engagement, general communication. So my question is, should we just focus on voting, or do we open it up to look at engagement and participation in a broader scope? Did I lose just some of you, or did I lose all of you with that?
No, I think it should be about voting, participating, and engagement, ultimately, not just about the mechanisms for voting.
Yeah, voting is a style of participation and engagement.
Sorry, I missed that.
Voting is a form of participation and engagement. So I'm wondering if we take it up a notch first and look at some of the other options that we may have, because we've got blinders on when it comes to voting.
Can you give some examples?
The DRI tool, where we push down and we have not as formal mechanisms for ideation, and then the ideas are generated and completed. But to be frank, we have functioned quite nicely as an entity without a leadership board from the very get-go, and a lot of that has been driven by the administrative work, but a lot of it's by the DRIs. We've been a very flat organization.
Yeah. I think ultimately, too, though, it's worked because we don't have any workers or requesters. I mean, many yet.
Possibly. I mean, I'm a big proponent of open allocation, so I'm not disagreeing with you. I like to think that maybe we can clearly assimilate, but we haven't really engaged the fact that, hey, we have been successful. Are we looked at? Yeah, we don't have real workers and no requesters, but we have had 50 to 500 people collaborating and working together on building a platform with very little hierarchy or rules. Well, shit fire. There's got to be something in there that worked that is potentially scalable or measurable, or at least something we can evaluate.
Well, should we look at Jay Silver's idea again, where there's the kind of, what did he call them? The custodian group. So the main custodian group and the, what's the other custodian group called? Jay Silver?
Well, we're calling it the hybrid model for a while, but the custodial group, it's got some legs. There's some concepts out there. It's deployed by a couple companies. It's used by Wikipedia. It's used by some other organizations. It's got legs.
Because within that main custodian group, you could see how kind of that DRI functionality is it? Yeah. Anyway, how the DRI system could work, kind of where different, like we've been doing it now, different people step up at different times, and depending on interest, depending on fatigue, and depending on personal circumstances, the DRI role changing, but using that kind of main custodian group, kind of the core researchers, ultimately, all of us guys there's quite a few of us that have been kind of working on it regularly, contributing something regularly, take on that role. I don't know. I really have reservations about this kind of leadership board structure that we have at the moment, and I don't know. I don't want to rock the boat. It's not my intention to rock the boat and say we should maybe change things, but I really have reservations about this kind of having these elections every, say, 6 months. I think it'll tear people apart. I personally am not comfortable with it. I didn't like the process. I still kind of cringe when I think about the election. It just, I don't know. What do other people think? Anyone?
I also kind of like, the leadership board separates us from the leaders of so-called the leadership, and then we are like, the slaves and they're the leaders. I don't know. Yeah, it might sound so weird, but at some point it makes a difference.
Look, I think if we start looking at participating and engagement as maybe our hallmark, we could start critically evaluating the leadership board as the right way.
I think too with the
if we're looking at being a profit organization, I must say that if I'm a requester and I see that the management or the leadership of this organization can be voted out at a whim, I'm probably not going to be excited about investing a lot of money in this organization. It doesn't necessarily do something for us.
Say again? A requester wouldn't be interested in investing their money in the thing? Ultimately, a requester will, if we provide a service that the requester needs at a good price and give him what he expects out of it, he'll come to us ultimately. So this is why identifying our minimum viable product and kind of our target market is so essential. It's not about a requester kind of giving us their money because, giving Demo their money out of the goodness of their heart. Ultimately, it's about providing something that serves serves their needs, that fills some sort of a niche.
I was commenting on the stability of, to riff off of your concern that if you do have elections on a regular basis, the sheer fact that the leadership could be uprooted on the whims of an election,
Right.
That does not necessarily speak to stability. So as a requester or an investor, you're going to be like, nah, this doesn't necessarily work. It was the conduit for providing guidance. It may not necessarily be the right one. Again, it was field tested, and I think there's some very good ideas, good concepts behind the leadership board. But if we're going to investigate it, then let's not be half-assed about it. Let's do it within the concept of, I think, participation and engagement. If it's the mechanism that can bring legitimacy to the voice, the interaction between workers, requesters, platform folks, and the like, then I say move forward. Unless there is a viable alternative, which again is to give a balanced voice to all parties, then I say we stick with it until we come up with something better. I would make the argument that we don't need a leadership board at all, that we have DRIs, we have guilds, we have other mechanisms. But
yeah, and it's interesting related to that. Leaders tend to just emerge in the fact out of most communities, and they're actually through that in the responsibility behaviors that they kind of accumulate through. Like there's that trust kind of given to them as they move along and helping people out. Like that's one thing I've always been looking into, and have there's some research on it too that's showing that there are behaviors that are supportive and enhancing to a community that is defined within a leader to the group. And so that's what I would say is both a benefit and a weakness to voting. Voting, you can get new people in and you don't quite know how they're actually going to be as a leader, and it actually sets that defined role to it, which is also pretty helpful because it gets somebody to actually look toward doing it. But then also the advantage is who you like, so you can actually pick for it if they're helping you out.
Mm-hmm.
The things I find fascinating about voting is that at least in American democracy, it's one of those things where you participate. It's like, okay, I voted, I'm done. It's almost it's that catch-all. Okay, that's my duty, and that's in a fluid environment like ours, it's almost undermining what we're actually trying to encourage. We're like, okay, we don't want to necessarily drive people to vote. We want to engage people to act. We want them to be engaged. We want them to, instead of voting, we want them prototyping. And that I would find fascinating would be, we have, to get folks that, there's almost these parallels in how ideas, the ideation process, how an idea is generated, where it starts and then how it flows through. I think there's some parallels in that to what Ryan was saying about how those ideas move through. I think as a parallel is that those ideas, that's the conduit of leadership around here. That's the currency.
I think also with that, though, we need to be clear that it's not. I mean, I sense this a little bit, that there's a lot of with the leadership. There's a lot of ideation, but ultimately we want to focus on a structure that gets stuff done, like people who do stuff, produce stuff. So not just. I don't know if this is the leadership board's the right structure to kind of get stuff done.
If they're engaging in proactive behavior, then it actually can help it out a lot. A lot of leaders just being involved in the community of just essentially the one thing is communication will actually increase activity. I
think, and not just communication, but modeling behavior, like doing the work. Like I found when I was a manager in a college, basically what we did, it was a teaching department, is in the past a lot of managers didn't do teaching, but what we did was we did kind of 3/4 of our work was in the classroom teaching, and then the other bit was managing. So, well, actually it wasn't quite 3/4, but kind of modeling the behavior, doing the work, leading by example, and not just kind of getting the ideas and encouraging people to do it themselves. You know what I mean?
What we've noticed, and when we're talking about the hybrid model, and Jason can challenge it, there's almost two sets of ideas. There's the big, sexy ideas that really galvanize people and get them very interested. And then there are the less sexy ones, the more mundane, everyday, all right, I got to take the garbage out, okay, I've got to do the dishes. I think that I think that's an interesting dichotomy of ideas that we should explore. That now that we've matured a little bit, from my vantage point, I thought it was really fascinating. 5 months ago, that we're gonna look at leadership for leadership's sake. But now, what Ryan has mentioned and what Angela has mentioned, I think we have. Now that we've been in it for significantly longer, I think we can kind of flip the paradox. The questions a little bit. One, do we really need leadership board? I think that's a question we couldn't have asked 4 months ago. It's like, of course we're going to need a leadership board, but like now, well, maybe we don't. And now we can say why, because maybe this DRI structure is the way to go. Maybe there's some other alternatives out there that we could effectively engage. That's, as much as upvoting and all that is cool and all, but we've been there, done that. I would like for us to start maybe looking at some of the underlying principles of, I think, Ryan, you're talking about how this natural organic leadership style, how does that manage small? Is that Shangri-La, or can we actually as an organization just thrive off of that? And we don't really need a leadership board, that we're more disposed to an open allocation system than we are a hierarchical one.
Right. Then we definitely need some sort of a, I don't know.
Good.
Oh, we've lost.
I think maybe that's a freaking good conversation point around again, participation and engagement, but it's different. It's new. You know, because essentially what we're looking to is how does this thing sustain itself? How does it scale? How's it best run? And I think if we just maybe take a step back, my aha moment was like, I don't know, dudes, we've been doing pretty good without a leadership board, to be honest with you. You know, people, like to Ryan's point, people stepped up to write a paper. People stepped up to do experiments. People.
Well, experiments, just, I mean, that, for example, that blew my mind until Rikshi and Saif.
I was a little crazy, but what do we think about that? I mean, it's not your traditional organizational model, because it kind of fits a little bit here, a little bit there.
It's definitely an online community type of model that I see a lot.
Tell us more.
So in a sense, it's members evolve over time, obviously, in online communities. I mean, you start off being a lurker, where typically people are just like looking around, and you actually start getting involved in posts. And there's a few research on this. They talk about the life cycle of the member inside of a community, and it's pretty interesting. I'll probably put that in the lit review that I'm working on right now.
Good, thanks.
Yeah, but what they talk about is just how over time members just end up gaining responsibilities, and it's usually through interest in the community or a value that it's gained out of it. And that's when they start behaving in those like much more higher level behaviors, like setting policies and seeding kind of content that's related to it. I mean, that's some of them. There's a bunch of other behaviors too. I'm going to just list it out. But in a sense, what I like about how it's related to what we've been doing is the DRIs are exactly that. DRIs to me are leaders of our like sub communities inside of here to get the work done, and they're the ones who are setting the policy and kind of giving the direction, and they're the ones you actually do communicate with. And I think that kind of structure has worked pretty decently well with us, and just kind of getting just the goal setting in mind. It seemed a pretty good proactive kind of leadership model, and I'm really into that.
Yeah, no, I liked it a lot, and it's organic, and people can, I think, take a break when a break is needed, and kind of it's up to date, up to the minute, because DRIs with them changing, like these milestones changing every week. People who are engaged are there being the DRIs, and they stay engaged. I think with the leadership board model, I think it would be very difficult to stay that engaged week on week for 6 months or however long the leadership board.
It seems like it's a lot of time commitment, especially since we've been doing like the volunteer model. Like people just kind of contribute time whenever they can, and as long as there's a way for them to keep up to date of what's going on, then they can get right back into everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and ultimately, then the doors are still always open, you know, for whoever wants to step up, whoever wants to take the initiative, wants to put in the hours, wants to bring in the ideas, fresh ideas.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting. We have this two possibilities that we have theories behind of like which one might be better over the other. And of course, me being a researcher, I'm always interested. Well, let's actually get some information, some data actually backing which one is actually better over the other. And so, typically, the type of measurement I would think of this is always just related to how successful is the community if we're having these different types of leadership boards. The one that's much more organic, that kind of just comes up to whoever feels like getting into it, versus a much more structured one. And that gets kind of interesting because, I mean, measuring community success is actually pretty hard. So one of the ones for it is like how well does the community actually achieve its goals, and then how well does it create a lot of activity that's very prolonged, and member satisfaction is another one. And I think member satisfaction. So it's just about how people coming into the community, how satisfied are they with the reasons why they got there. Essentially, it's a metric of measuring how satisfied is it people that are reaching their goals for joining a community. And so this sounds like a really good one for are workers meeting their goals of getting work and that they like and continually getting work, as well as our requesters meeting their goals of getting their work done in a quality way. And so the only problem I have with that is we need to actually get like a survey and ask people straight up how satisfied they are with the experiences. And then
Yeah,
literally just
it's difficult to do that. What if
Ryan,
how scalable is that?
yeah, how big these get, and how diverse, how culturally, well, culturally diverse are they?
Well, I've seen that done on communities over the size of like 10,000 members. And essentially, it's just since it's a survey, they just sampled it properly and then sent it out to a certain amount of people. So it's pretty scalable, especially when you ask just a simple question, just how satisfied are you with being involved in this online community?
Well, and the,
Sorry, you're kind of breaking up there. I'm not hearing you all that well.
well, some and DT and Ankita, they call themselves the Slackers. We were working on a satisfaction survey before the Kai paper came together, and so we were looking at kind of voting satisfaction, consumer satisfaction models, and kind of aping off of their language to see if we could create a formidable matrix to almost assess what you're looking at. So there are some frameworks out there that we might be able to deploy within our group. That might be actually kind of cool for onboarding new folks. Start getting a baseline of folks before they enter into our community and see what some of their expectations are. That may be a way to start measuring satisfaction. It's like, okay, this is my level, and here's my level here. That could be a simple way to get a measure there. I'm gonna go on mute because I think I'm.
Yeah, I think it's echoing. That's why I was on mute for that. Yeah, that sounds good. Anyway, like if there's already good marketing for satisfaction, it's good. I know of some other citations for the academic side, so we can compare and contrast those two. The big one we need to do, though, is if we're going to go the satisfaction route, we need to have it very operationalized. So we definitely need to have good backing in a sense of what is meeting the satisfaction, and typically that's related to goals being accomplished, is what I've seen. But we'll have to probably look into other aspects of it, too.
So, Ryan, what are your thoughts? I from a binary perspective, I see this satisfaction piece. It then ties into our retention challenge. What are your thoughts on us going back and doing either exit interviews or reaching out to folks that have migrated off the platform to get a sense of why they've left, or I'm sure some life carried them away. But then some it's not as I expected, blah, 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 a variety of other things. Is that valuable content that we could turn into? I mean, we can operationalize it and it'll help with our retention and moving forward, but is that stuff we could leverage for research and for a paper?
Oh, exit interviews would be great. The problem is they are almost really tough to get with online communities. But I think the most of what I've heard is exit is mostly, they're just not happy with the situation. And there's either a bad social situation that occurred, so in a case of in the much more open internet, trolling occurs, which is a very obviously anti-social behavior. I'm guessing since we're in much more of a work-related one, that'll be very rare, but it could still occur. Some other ones I could think of, the whole reason they came to this situation is just not getting what they wanted out of it, and that's always kind of trying to prevent that. So if we could find something that does add on to that, I can't think of any that's related to crowdsourcing of why they switch platforms besides the listed errors, but I don't think there's anything that's actually been any exit survey stuff. So yeah, I think that would really contribute to it.
So what I'm getting at then is, operationally, just to reiterate, I think we've got some themes here. Now on the governance side, under the umbrella, I think we're still in this participation and engagement umbrella, but we're looking at satisfaction surveys, exit surveys. What should we tie this into then? Maybe exploring. Are we, your online community research, Ryan? Can we call that an organizational model, or what's the appropriate term for kind of define?
There's a lot of different terms for it, but I think organizational model is not a bad one to use right now. Let me scour through some more research and get onto it, but that can just be our placeholder for now.
So, Angela, you mentioned it a couple times, and I know I've been thinking of our organization at times as a learning organization. Do you have? I know you proposed a platform many moons ago, but have you done a lot of research into seeing these crowd organizations if they are pinioned around learning principles? It's a constant engagement along those lines.
No, I haven't looked at the research about it. I just I'm interested in it because I am an educator. My background's education, and because since kind of even when I did my MA back in 2000, kind of my focus was on the way people, skills, attitudes, and knowledge of using, specifically it was computer-assisted language learning for English language teaching. But my focus throughout all of these years has been on what skills do people need and what training is there available, and do people's attitudes towards it change depending on what training they take to kind of give them the skills that they need to carry out their work. So, yeah, I'm still very keen on identifying ways within DAMO that we can help people, first of all, know what skills they might need to do a certain task. So have, say, for each of the areas of work, have a well-defined kind of this is an outline of the skills area, and if you want to get into this area, here's the training that you can do, or if you want to get better at it, here's the other training you can do. And also within our community, I mean, there's a lot of nobody knows it all. There's always something to learn. So I think kind of formalizing the availability and direction for skills and knowledge improvement is kind of an area I'm very interested in.
So Ryan, in your organizational models, were there consistent? I mean, you're talking about groups that have scaled up to 10,000 folks. Were these communities bound together by some core competencies, or were there 3 or 4 things that bound them together? I.e., with the pursuit of money, but also engagement in community and the like. Have we? Is that common that there are these unifying principles?
I mean, it's all just about what's your interest usually. I've looked at a lot of industrial communities, and they're the ones mostly they're all over the place. And it's pretty consistent with the open internet. I mean, whenever you have a common interest, you're going to find a group online. And yeah, some of them do get together in much more smaller groups than the larger 10,000 ones. They're when it comes to community type name, they're the ones called teams, where they actually get together and try to achieve a common goal. And so in this case, this is an open source programming project kind of group that's open to pretty much everybody, but you do have a core group of people actually getting the work done most of the time. And so that's kind of there are those goals outside of just we like the same show together or something.
I'm very keen on this, the idea of learning communities and kind of experts getting together, experts getting together to kind of lead and direct these learning communities, but also people having a way to get into these kind of knowledge circles. So I've been exploring this through kind of some of my other startup stuff I've been doing. Yeah, I'm very interested in further developing this kind of learning community thing, and I think through DAMO we could even do some stuff, and kind of further the work on developing the templates for the different Oh, sorry, my daughter is here playing Peppa Pig now. Drives me nuts, Peppa Pig. I've completely lost my train of thought. But no, learning communities and having specialists develop the templates and develop the even training pathways. If people want to upskill or get the higher level. We were talking previously about leveling people. Giving them different ranks. Having them kind of having the learning communities in charge of that sort of thing. Oh, 1 second, sorry.
So then from a theme perspective, let's, and I'll jot all this down to something a little more formal, but we're going to look at participation and engagement. I've got a bunch of case studies I'll share. We'll start building up. Ryan's going to start digging into some things. Let's start finding some literature that reflects on how one achieves and maintains legitimacy. And that's not necessarily just of a leadership organization, but of the entity itself. And I think that's where we can pull in some classic political science results. There's a ton of research done in the mechanics of legitimacy, how it goes sideways, how it's achieved, how it's not achieved, and the like. So I think that's a better platform than trust for us. And then within that context, we're going to look at, let's reconsider some of the organizational models that we have. We've matured a little bit. Let's have that concrete conversation. Maybe we just don't need a leadership board. Start engaging maybe some of these other elective alternatives, and pull up some of the research that Ryan has been alluded to, and look at then as a conduit for that. Okay, some satisfaction surveys. That can support some of our other initiatives, exit surveys, but really I think it's getting a baseline of maybe where perception and reality, or what expectations are, how they're satisfied, and the like. But we can start crafting or start shaping the terms of our community in a way that we can measure them, and that's something we really didn't do. We kind of bolted on a field study onto to a process that was really already in play. But what I think I'm proposing is that we just maybe take a deep breath, do a deep dive. Let's do a little post-mortem here, and not be afraid to restructure, rebuild in a way that gives us greater access to more data that we can measure, and that is more honest and authentic, and that is scalable at the end of the day.
And I think ultimately we should focus on stuff that gets, like a structure that gets stuff done. So if that's our main focus, what kind of has worked in the past for getting things done, I think.
Yeah, let's start engaging with those things. But I think Brian says let's start utilizing some of these 3 or 4 concepts to come up with a more defined plan of attack. Our OpGov efforts up to now have been very reactionary. They haven't been as purposeful. They haven't been as shaped by some of the research agendas that we should be supporting. Not as mature. We've got many months now underneath our belt. We have some experiences. We've got a couple papers. Let's be purposeful. Let's not necessarily burn it down, but let's, instead of trying to bolt on voting and whatnot, let's take a step back and re-engage the whole thing. I think we can do it fast. I think we can do it well, and we can do it with a better end product, both for the platform and for a paper.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I actually need to get going now, but I've got my ideas of what I'm going to be doing this week. So I'm going to be looking at like membership reduction, retention. You have those links on organizational behaviors, different studies on it. I'm also looking to look in life cycle models of member roles and community development for onboarding. I'll get that review out, and then also looking at community success metrics in terms of proactive influential behavior. So what success metrics are actually known to produce very active members?
Great. That sounds awesome.
Dude,
Okay.
so that's a lot of shit you're doing. So if you need some worker bees or you need some meetings, I'm all for it. I'm totally interested, but that's a little out of my field of scope. So if you need some help with any of that, I'll talk more about it.
Okay, I'll collect everything I've got personally tomorrow, make a post, and then so that way you guys can read it, and we'll see what that gets us to, and then if that accomplishes everything.
I can speak now.
Mohammed,
Oh, good.
what's
Cool.
up?
Thank you. Oh, okay. I had a question. Is this the right time to start working on the supporting platform that we earlier spoke about?
What supporting platform is that, bud?
The place that the virtual place where the crowd will come and discuss ideas and receive flow of information and think and vote, this kind of stuff.
Yeah, the forum.
Yeah, we can call it the forum, yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna get going. This sounds interesting to me. I'm gonna come back and watch this stuff later. So see you guys later.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan. Cheers.
Yeah, I think that is some of those technical pieces. Having a dashboard, having some other communication tools other than Slack. Just we're talking about fatigue. Wellness is a primary concern of our platform. So fatigue is one of those things that have been happening a lot. The ability to engage in ideas is a challenge because our only conduit is Slack right now, and then we go to the other extreme. We have these passive tools, whatnot. So, yeah, Mohammed, I think a project dashboard, the forum, and some of the other technical tools to support better balanced communication. Yeah, they're out there.
Because if we are planning to launch like next month, real crowd when they join the project, when they join demo, they should have a place where they can express themselves.
Yeah, and I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just trying to figure out the prioritization. But I'm not disagreeing with you on that one at all, Mohammed. But I think that we have Slack. We can build some chat groups, and we can talk to Spam Girl about some temporary measures if we cannot create these final products. So I would, Mohammed, if you have some time, have you spoken to Spam Girl about some of these tools?
No, I haven't done that.
I would reach on out to her just to get some more on the ground kind of tactical pieces. Even Jay Silver, if we can get Silent Jay to chat about this.
Well, I think Michael himself, because he had experience with Dynamo, with designing Dynamo. So
yeah. So let's put this then as our third pillar. Is that we have operational. We're going to do the mission statements, comparative analysis, plans, profit, and then the onboarding retention piece. That onboarding retention piece kind of bleeds on over into the governance side of things, where we're going to look at evaluating pretty much the whole kit and caboodle under the rubric now of participation and engagement. These are kind of tenets of legitimacy, and start looking at engagement and retention and some of the satisfaction metrics. Ryan's going to start looking at successful workers and the like. I think I'll start digging into and start sharing some of the literature that talks about successful platforms that have deployed tools and mechanisms for participation and engagement. And then we'll just do a general, as such, look at the organizational model and do just some general reviewing, i.e., hey, do we even need a leadership board? And then the third part should be, and it's part of both of these, both the operational and the governance is now some of this hot tech, for lack of a better word, but it's the forum, it's a project board, other meeting tools and the like, more dynamic stuff. So yeah, we need all those things. So So the final piece requires some technical work and a technical interface. So I know, Mohammed, you were DRIing at one point the forum tools. Were you able to? Do you have a technical liaison that you can re-engage with on the engineering team that you guys can borrow some bandwidth to start building some of these tools?
Well, I spoke to Neil like months ago, but I think we should start over this discussion again because
I'm changing, Mohammed. So you have some bandwidth. You want to feel the love and start ramping up that thing again?
yeah, I'm very happy to do that. This is my interest these days.
Good. Well, then go get it. So I know Jay Silver's chiming in. I know he's a brother in arms in that issue. So why don't you start DRIing that particular piece and start presenting it, and perhaps not. Tomorrow we're going to do another OpGov. We'll just have it out there. I don't think we're going to need it. But let's have it by the end of this week, Mohammed. If you could have a separate call, a Google Hangout for that particular item, I think we can then galvanize and rally some folks there to get that thing done. Because I think...
so sorry, just like I lost my direction. You mean the forum, right? Like this?
Let's call it the forum.
Okay, let's call it the forum or
the forum is going to mean all these tools. Okay, we'll just use it's a lot easier. I'm using air quotes, but and
it will be understood easily by the crowd outside because it's a common word.
Kaboom! Exactly. So maybe Thursday or Friday of this week, perhaps if you could set up a Google Hangout just for that idea and start advertising on it, then that we could start getting the technical crew and then the OpGov folks that are interested. We can get them, give it its own time, because I don't think we've really, I know there's some powerful reasons for it. There's some powerful proponents. I know Jay Silver has made some good arguments. Spam Girl has, you have. I know Allison has from an operational side. So I think there's a lot of folks that have, at one time or another, have spun up ideas. But I don't recall us all kind of joining forces on this idea. So I think the Google Hangout would be a good opportunity for all of us to kind of get together, get on the same page, maybe spec out the scope, et cetera, and get that thing up and running. Because I think we're going to be hard pressed to find someone that thinks it's not important.
Well, I will reach out to Spam Girl first, then I will choose the right time according to her because she is the most important person on this.
That's right. Who's the most important? You broke up on me there, Mohammed.
I said this Spam Girl is the most important person on the upcoming meetings. That's why I will reach out to her first, and I will decide on the time.
Silver's kind of important too, and I think he's got some good things to say.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Jay Silver also has a lot of good things to say too.
Yeah, Jay Silver and Spam Girl and.
Like Mohammed, I think at the end of the day, you just find the time. Those that want to show up will, but I think trying to rally as many people around that idea, I think it's got a lot of value. You get some good turnout. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Thank you.
Sweet. All right. This is what we're talking about. So I think we've got 3 unifying themes. We'll mature these a little bit more then. So by this time next week, we'll be in the position where we create. We got now the critical mass we're looking for. Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. So, Mohammed, Angela, you left us. Are you still with us?
What's that? Pardon?
We're still here.
Peppa Pig's over?
Yeah, Peppa Pig's over. Yes, you want to say hello? Hello. Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hello.
Thank you.
Is Peppa Pig?
Thank you.
I
We've
love
been playing in the garden.
All right, so Angela, we can ramp this down. Do you have anything else to add, or are you comfortable with where we've moved the needle today?
No, it sounds good. I just was reading Slack and just saw Jay Silver's comment about getting things done quickly and seriously needs a structure like the leadership board. So we really need to, we need to give, I don't know.
Well, the leadership board, we're meeting on Wednesday, and so we'll have some conversations about this. That we're dusting off the dust, so to speak, because we met once.
Yeah, no. Oh, shoot. He wants to be finished with this. But yeah, can I add too that it would be helpful to have all of the leadership board's ideas on this, like individually listed as well. I think it will help to generate much more discussion if you just pop down a few sentences each, kind of in media, what your own personal thoughts on the whole situation are, and I think doing that will really help to generate discussion. Okay, I gotta go.
And the crowd, we are done. Thank you all for your time and effort. We'll talk to y'all later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.